Hello and welcome back. We currently have a pretty solid working app where you can add and edit recipes, display recipe images, have profile images for chefs using Gravatar, and also list all recipes and mini versions of the recipe images. Now we want to implement a like-dislike feature associated with recipes in both the listings page and in the show recipes page. We want to show how our recipe is faring, right? So it's one of the key features of social media is that you want to see what's trending or what people like or are viewing and how you want to track that. So one way is to add a like and dislike feature so you can weigh how an individual recipe is faring out there in the real world. So let's go ahead and add this feature to our app. There are several approaches to implement like or dislike. We're going to use a very simple approach, which will be a likes table and an associated like model. So let me pull up this diagram that I just created. So this is what we're looking at. We're looking at a like model, a likes table, and we want an attribute like, which would be Boolean, which means it would be either true or false. It would have a chef ID as a foreign key that's referring to the chef's table, and a recipe ID, which is a foreign key, which will be referring to the recipe ID of the recipes table for the recipe that it's associated with. So if I pull up the entity relationship diagram that I have, it's right here. So if you remember, that's the one-to-many association that we currently have between chef and recipes. So this is going to be a one-to-many relationship or a one-to-many association between chef and like, and also recipe and like. So a chef can have many likes and a recipe can also have many likes. But a like will always belong to one chef, and a like will also belong to one recipe. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. So the first step would be to create a migration to create the likes table. So let's go ahead and do that first. Okay, so I'm going to navigate over to our app. And then to create the likes table, we type in Rails space generate space migration space create underscore likes. Okay, so there's the migration file. Let's take a look at it. If I pull it up, all right. So here, like we saw from the diagram, we're going to add a Boolean, and it's going to be the attribute like. And then I'm going to add the two foreign keys. So in integer, one will be for chef ID, and the other will be for recipe ID. And then I want timestamps. Okay, so this is going to create the table. Once we run the migration, there will be the attribute like, which will be of type Boolean, and the two foreign keys and timestamps. Okay, so let's go ahead and create this. So to do that, we type in rake db :migrate and then hit return. Okay, perfect. So that created our likes table. Now we want to create the like model. Okay, so if you remember, the like model will be created in our under app models. So let's go ahead to our app folder, and then under app models, so we see we have chef and recipe, but we don't have like. So model, right click, and then new file. Now remember, for likes table, it's going to be like singular model name. Okay, so like.rb. Let's pull it up. So class caps like, subclass from active record base. All right, now I'm going to pull up the diagram again. So you want the like class, you want it to belong to chef and recipe. Okay, all right, so let's add that. Belongs to chef, whoops, and then belongs to recipe. Now remember, both of these have to be singular because this is the many part of the one-to-many association. And then I'm going to pull up the chef model right here. So has many recipes right under there. I'm going to type in has many likes. So this will be plural. And similarly, I'm going to pull up the recipe model. And then right under here, belongs to chef, hit return, and then has many likes. Okay. So the next thing I want to do is I want to test out these associations in the Rails console. Okay. So I'm going to hop into Rails console right here. First, I want to see what our new table is like. Okay, so the connection's working. So if we type in like, we see that it's like type boolean. We have the chef ID, recipe ID, and then the timestamps. Okay, so let's go ahead and create a like. Okay, so like.create. I'm going to say like true, and then for chef, remember, I don't have to say chef ID. I can just pass in the object. If I do chef ID, then I have to provide the chef ID. So object to object, ID to ID. Following that, we can just pass in the chef object, which we've been doing. Chef.first. And for recipe, I want to similarly pass in recipe.first. Okay, let me just check that out real quick. All right. So we see that the transaction was committed. Okay, great. So now, if I do something like equals like.first, like.chef, and I see that Bob is associated with that like, which means Bob created that like. And then if I do like.recipe, okay, we see that this like was associated with the vegetable saute recipe. Okay, that's great. So this association's working. Now let's try out the reverse association, meaning recipe.like and chef.like. So chef equals chef.first, chef.likes. Okay, and we see that it's pulling up the like, which is great. And then recipe equals recipe.first. Now recipe.likes. Okay, we're seeing it's pulling that up also. recipe ID 2. Okay. Well, actually, like true chef ID. Perfect. All right. So I'm going to exit out of the console at this time. Now, what we want to do is we want to, now that our model and migrations are done, we have the table, now we want to implement this on our user interface, right? So we can see it from the browser. So where do we want to do this? Now we want to do this first in the show page, and then we'll do it to the index page also. All right. So let's go to our show.html.erb file. All right. I'm also going to start the Rails server at this time so we can follow along. So Rails server HP. Okay, so the server is running. So I want to go to the let's say the second recipe. Actually, let me just go to the first recipe. We already, if you remember, we created votes for this from our console. So I don't know if I want to pick that. Let me just pick another one. Let's try this one. All right. So we want the like, the thumbs up or thumbs down to show up right here. Okay. So let's go ahead and build that. Now, if you followed along, that was that description area right here. So inside this well, we want to add some styling. Okay. So right here under this, I want to give it a class, div class, and I want it to pull right so that we get it at the right of the well. Okay, then I want to give it an anchor tag, right? Link to. But here we're going to follow an alternate method of using the link to for Rails, which is normally we do something like this: link to, then we provide a name, and then we provide the link. Well, here we're going to provide the link first, okay, which we don't have right now, so I'm going to leave it as empty. And then this is the block that I'm going to provide, and then I'm going to end. Actually, I don't think I need this. Not sure. Let's see. Let's try it out. All right, let's see what that did. Okay, I didn't put anything there, so let's say in the block, I want to say hello, just to test it out. Perfect, it's showing up. All right, so now let's modify this. Now we're going to use Twitter Bootstrap again. We're going to use what's called a glyph icon, and I want to show the thumbs up symbol for the up for likes and thumbs down for the dislikes. Okay, so in this block, I'm going to provide I for icon, class, and then glyph icon. You can check out the getbootstrap.com site and select an icon that you like. They're called glyph icons, so I'm going to say class glyph icon and then glyph icon dash thumbs up. Okay. And then I'm going to copy this over and then just paste it there, right underneath it. For this one, I want to say thumbs down. Okay, and then I also want to add some space between them. So since it's HTML, let's see. This should work. Okay, so that should be 4 spaces. Let's see what that looks like. Okay, perfect. That's exactly what I was looking for.